Guru in creative tech. I'm going to put that in my LinkedIn bio, I think. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to delve into what Matt talked about earlier, the unified story systems. When media and creative are connected together through an unbroken data spine, we're able to turn a big idea into a connecting idea, one that travels across audiences, culture, channels, narratives, and creates unique experiences while keeping the brand platform intact. But to have an unbroken data spine, you need to have the right foundations. And our foundations, as well, Ben and Matt talked about earlier, is called Dentsu.Connect. It's our operating system that connects every application we develop through creative, media, and production, and it has this shared intelligence layer. So this means that when we are acting as both media and creative agency, the audiences created by our amazing media strategists like Rachel power our creative strategy. And crucially, the creative signals feed back into media planning. So, the tool within Dentsu Connect that powers our creatives is called Idea Builder. Notice the name, it's Idea Builder, not Idea Creator. It's designed to spark inspiration, but most importantly, it's about stress testing ideas and concepts across audiences, across culture, and our own internal best practice. So, hey, what are you trained on? So, Idea Builder, when we were building this, it was focusing on getting all of the knowledge around Dentsu and putting it into one model. So, it's got our Dentsu DNA within it. It understands our creative scale, the 9-point system that we have to evaluate every concept that we come up with. And it leverages our creative devices, the exercises that we use to sharpen and challenge ideas and make us think differently. And it also has our CANS framework. So it looks at every idea and assesses it across insight, impact, and execution. However, it all starts with the brand. So from the creative brief to the brand tone of voice, to the brand guidelines, everything is uploaded securely, for any CISOs out there, into the platform, so no data is used to train the model. So I'm going to prompt, I'm working with fashion brand Rowan Vale. Here is their brand world. Now, as Matt mentioned, today we're working with Rowan Vale, high-end fashion brand, looking to compete with Reese. And they have this big idea of breaking the cycle, both in fashion and in culture. This is the grounding for everything that comes after this. So it's always referring back to the brand platform and keeping the brand intact. Now, Idea Builder, if we look at this here, it hasn't just read the document, it's also identified opportunities, not just cultural moments, but also kind of something a bit more unexpected. It's noticed that I think in the last few days, we have finally broken the cycle of what has been an incredibly bleak winter. So why has it come up with this moment rather than just cultural insights? More obviously to do with fashion. So let's ask it, let's see. So interesting you have made this connection between break the cycle and bleak weather. Research how bleak it's been. Now at this point, we're using live signals and data to stress test the idea and surface and reinforce the insights. So let's see what we come up with. All right. Never work with, what's the adage? Kids, animals, and non-deterministic AI, I think is the phrase. Apparently, 56% of Britons are feeling climate fatigue, and the raincoats have been the highest selling item across a number of main brands this year. So I think this is the cycle we can now choose to break. Now, let's bring Poppy back in and see how she's been coping with the weather. So you'll see now, go up, and I'm going to select an audience. The number of audiences up there, we're going to select Poppy 3, the one that we know and love. And we're going to ask her, how have you coped with the recent bad weather, and how has it impacted your fashion choices? Okay. Let's see what she's feeling. But the most important thing here is that the data that Rachel showed is flowing through into our creative's hands. So, okay, some interesting points here. Poppy is wearing a mood-stabilizing uniform. And then we've got a phrase that I think is really interesting, aesthetic resistance. What a great phrase. Standing up against the resilience of weather through kind of fashion, the determination that fashion doesn't have to stop when, ultimately the rain starts. But the phrase I really like in this is, if I'm going to get soaked, I'm going to look intentional about it. So this one's for my techies in the room, the CTOs. You'll see two key tags here, speculation and inference. Inference means it's grounded in real data, so our creatives knows what's coming from truth. Speculation is a creative extrapolation on top of that data, so we know that they need to take it with a pinch of salt. One of the things that we hear time and time again when we are actually developing this tool and we're working with Jessica and the creatives is about the fear of the blank page. And I think this is where AI can be genuinely beneficial. It's not going to come up with an award-winning strategy. I think we all know that. But it might spark a moment of inspiration in a creative who can come up with an award-winning strategy. So even a bad idea from AI that sparks a good idea in a creative is ultimately a good idea. And to help this, what we've done is we've developed a set of personas and basically a series of archetypes from a contrarian to a surrealist to a satirist that are basically the help to fill that blank page and ultimately become a bit of a sparring partner for our creatives. So I'm going to ask, can you give me 10 concise thought starters taglines to get me started? No, the reality is here, this is something that will go back and forth, and multiple creatives will be in here talking to it until they get to something that's actually really good, but unfortunately, we don't have that much time today. So I'm going to do a cheat, and I'm going to ask Poppy which one resonates with her the most. Okay. What does she like? So we see the inference, we see the speculation. She likes that idea of aesthetic resilience again. So I think we've got a kind of like common direction that we can kind of follow and a thread to pull on. Now I'm going to do a bit of a cheat, and I'm going to ask her if she can come up with a half-decent tagline. But although, like me, she is definitely not a world-class creative, so I'm not expecting much from her. Yeah, okay, like pretty bang-average ideas, right? But that's actually fine, because what the AI is doing is suggesting that our creative undertakes an exercise to get a better outcome. It's not about coming up with the best idea straight away. It's about pushing our creatives to think differently and hopefully have a spark within it. It's not just about audiences. We've also codified our own knowledge and best practices into what we call specialists. So the specialist I'm going to talk to now is called Copy Engine, which is trained on about 20 years of performance best practice. And I'm going to ask it for it to come up with some social copy to bring this idea to life. And what it will do is it will come back with a series of well-written, structured copy specifically for the channels based on all of our best practices that we have. So for some clients, we've seen kind of like a reduction in first draft time by up to 40%. And that's not because the AI magically came up with better copy, but because the test and iteration cycle dramatically sped up the whole process. So this is now like my favorite part of this piece, which is it understands everything we've just talked about. It understands the brand platform, it understands the audience response to it, it understands the tagline and the copy, and it analyzes all of that context and gives our creatives 5 options about how to visualize and bring this idea to life. How many great ideas have just been left on the cutting room floor because they weren't able to be visualized in the right way? So it translates that concept into the right prompt, because again, we don't want our creatives to have to become prompt engineers. And actually, to create a really good prompt, it's got to be super, super detailed. We can then also upload reference assets from the brand world. So if we want to bring in the products, the logos, the models that need to be used, that all gets brought in, so at least the asset feels a part of that same brand world. Let's see what it comes up with. Okay. Okay, it's a pretty strong image. So it's brought in the coat, it's brought in the bag, and they're front and center, and it captures the drabness of the UK winter, which is the concept, the thread that we've been pulling on. And in reality, our creatives will create hundreds of variations of this until they get to something that's actually really good. But for a first pass, it's not bad. We can then take that concept and bring it to life further by bringing it into the kind of video module, just so we can give some motion to it and give a bit of, a bit of motion to it, obviously. And then adding in things like voiceover and background music, so effectively everything our production team will need to do a quick turnaround, brand-safe version of this concept. Okay. Again, it's pretty good, but it also actually does not matter what I think or what we think. Let's see what Poppy thinks. So, there we go. So we can upload any asset into the platform for analysis. So it could be a banner ad, it could be a TVC, it could be a reel. We decode it and feed it into the audience to get the grounded feedback on what the audience is going to feel about that asset. So I'm going to ask Poppy, what do you think of this ad? And she's going to take it, pull all of the frames apart from the video, and then give us an analysis of her general feelings about this. And it looks like, yeah, she likes it. The tagline, "Luxury isn't waiting," is an interesting pivot that resonates with her. And the shoot style appeals to her too. She's making suggestions on how to tailor it to the channels and content that most resonates with her, so kind of how to style execution, or apparently Poppy's also become a colorist because she's also asking about grading. But it's also, she's pointing out that it's not showing the type of models that she would like to see within this that Rachel talked about earlier. And that's the point, right? We will never one-shot the perfect advert, and I certainly haven't today, right? We're not claiming that. It's about testing and iterating and getting to stronger ideas faster, allowing our creatives the time and space to ultimately follow their own intuition. Because this isn't about generating AI ads, it's about making sure that the idea that leaves the boardroom is the same idea that turns up in culture, across audiences, across channels, without fragmenting the brand platform. And it's ultimately about these unified story systems. So, thank you.